ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you for this particular session where our presenter, this is Dr. Gokul Mandayan from Rhode Island College of Social Work, is actually going to take us through this workshop. And he has a theme which is entitled Design Thinking for Community Development, Engaging Communities for Co-Creating Sustainable and Impactful Services. He will guide us in terms of how we are going to go through it, and I will be reminding you about the time, and I will be your host for this particular workshop. So thank you so very much and welcome. Gokul, karibu sana.
Okay, I understood that. Thank you, Professor Wairire. Good morning to everyone in Nairobi, Kenya, and from whichever part of the world. I just wanted to welcome you all for the workshop. Thank you for your time. I do want to introduce my colleague, Dr. Monica Nandan, who is with me on screen from Atlanta, Georgia, who both of us will be doing this workshop. So I just want to quickly walk you through the agenda. And we'll have a little icebreaker exercise, and then we'll touch very briefly on why do we need to really innovate for ensuring efficient and effective community development, and how do we do that with an interesting process called design thinking, or human-centered design, as they like to call it. And then we'll have sort of like an exercise for you. We'll send you into breakout rooms and allow you to play with a case and identify the problem. And then come back, and then once you have the problem, we'll think about the solution, very creative solutions you're going to come up with for the problem. And then we will spend a few minutes talking about what was the process like, and get your thoughts on what are some takeaways that you had. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Nandan for the icebreaker exercise.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, colleagues from across the globe. This exercise is a 4-minute exercise. I've just posted the Google link for you. I'm Monica Nandan, as Gokul said, from Atlanta, Georgia, with the Wellstar College at Kennesaw State University. As a co-host, this is a very engaging hands-on workshop. So can you take about 30 seconds to get into the Google Doc? And you will go to the first tab. Once you enter the Google Doc, you'll go to the first tab, which says Icebreaker. And what I'm going to time you. Some people have already started writing. We're going to time you. It's 4:04 our time, 4:04 a.m. For 3 minutes. For 3 minutes, first select a column. Just put your cursor at the top of the column in row 7. Put your cursor there so that you have kind of, booked your seat. And then the instructions are write down all the ways in which this clip, this picture that you're seeing on the screen, can be used. Be crazy, creative, off the chart answers. There is no judgment. The rule is there is no judgment in how to use it, number 1. Number 2, no more than 2 to 3 words per response. We don't want sentences here. We're looking for a 2 to 3 word response and no judgment. I'm sorry, the question was? Lauren?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought I heard a question.
Oh,
so
sorry.
the time begins now. 30 seconds ago, and go, just start writing, and go vertical. Go on in your column, just go vertical, downwards, in writing your responses. Don't look at anyone else's right now, just write.
And folks, you can think as wildly as possible. Push the envelope of creativity.
Beautiful. Okay, so we will not be able to do everything possible in these 3 minutes, but in the last 50 seconds, review other people's responses and delete any redundancies, duplications. I just saw one duplication myself, but delete, if I think crocodile was mentioned twice. Make a crocodile, yes, so just delete that. Beautiful. I think everything else looks good. Okay, so what you saw was what we call dumping, part of ideation. You dumped ideas and you removed redundancies. We'll come to this. You did this to stretch your creative elasticity in your brain. You just did this beautifully. We will use this muscle, brain muscle, for now applying this muscle to community problem solving. Gokul, the floor is yours.
I'm back. I'm sorry. I had to stop sharing my screen because it was acting funny. All right. Thank you, Dr. Nandan. So now that you have exercised your muscle of creativity, let's sort of jump into really understand what is social innovation. So it's just a new way of thinking that allows you to come up with more efficient, effective, or sustainable solutions. And the beauty is you are really doing a collaborative thinking. You're stepping into the shoes of different stakeholders as you think about the solution, starting with your client for whom you're designing the solution and including everybody else. Why are we really engaging? Why do we need to engage in social innovation for community development? Because we are living in a very volatile world, socially, politically, economically, ecologically. So there's a lot of pressure to create sustainable impact with optimal resources. And as you see, the 3 Ps, people, planet, and profit, you really want to make sure that you are able to come up with that very best possible solution. And how do you do that? I mean, you've got to experiment, you got to push the envelope, you got to think entrepreneurially. And as social workers, as community organizers, as community development professionals, we are always walking into uncertainties. We are always dealing with scarce resources. So the point is when we engage all our stakeholders and allow them to co-create with us, then there's the beauty of the solution is much more enhanced. It's much more richer, which is what you'll be doing with your exercises. So like this kid fishing out for some part, problems are really, really messy in the world. And there's no one quick fix solution. So you really can't solve the problems by using the same kind of thinking that we used in 17th, 18th, 19th centuries. I mean, I love this quote by Albert Einstein, which sort of emphasizes the point there. So in the social sector, what do we really do? Even before we have a thorough analysis of the problems, we really are focused more on the solution, and we want to sort of get to the solution ASAP without spending adequate time on the problem. Ideally, this is what you should be doing. So design thinking, the exercise that you're about to engage in with your creative minds and spirits pretty soon, really teaches us that. I mean, you have to get all knotted up and then slowly untangle yourself based on understanding the problem from different scenarios and then come up with a solution. I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Nandan, now.
Thank you, Gokul. So as the concept states, human-centered design thinking, meaning the human beings, the consumers, the various stakeholders, the providers, the politicians, the family members, the church leaders, the tribal leaders. These are the different players in a community impacting the problem or impacted by the problem. So in human-centered design thinking, stakeholders are people who are impacting the problem or are impacted by the problem. There are numerous stakeholders, and as social workers, sometimes we don't engage with all the stakeholders the way we should to understand the messiness of the problem. That's why problems continue to exist, because we take only one, maybe two stakeholders' point of view and trying to solve it. The other stakeholders are sustaining the problem because it's in their economic interest, political interest. We know this, especially in developing countries. Problems exist to stakeholders, certain stakeholders would like the problems to continue existing for maintaining status quo, because there are some winners and some losers the way community problems exist. There are winners and losers. We need to understand the problem from all the stakeholders' point of view. That's very important. And the design, so once you've understood the problem, normally we, in normal community development, community organizing work, we don't spend, like Gokul said, enough time in digging into the messiness and the complexity. It's like trying to dig a well with your nail. How much well can you dig with a nail? But we don't spend enough time doing that because funders, politicians, decision makers, policy makers want quick solutions. So focus is always on solutions, not understanding the problem. And that's one thing, one element of design thinking. Second is we are scared to jump into experimenting and doing a small scale test of an idea that is absolutely off the wall idea, but it may work. But we're scared to dip our toes in the quick prototyping of an idea and experimenting to see whether it will pass or fail, especially in a community context, because there's so much at stake. There's so much at stake. However, design thinking recommends, get your toes in the water, test it, and then make constant modifications to what worked, what did not work. So these are the steps of design thinking. Empathizing, which is the core of social work practice and community organizing, with the consumers, with the end users and the different stakeholders is very important. When you empathize and try to understand the problem from different stakeholders' point of view, the way you perceive the problem and the way it really is are two different things, because you are now consolidating the perspective of all stakeholders. So you redefine the problem. In ideate, today we will do ideation as well. You're brainstorming ideas to solve it. Not every idea will stick. You will then select through the design thinking model, some criteria will be used to select and prototype, small scale, either by drawing, either by building a 3D model, either by doing actual modeling through computer simulation, whatever the mechanism be. You're prototyping and then testing that prototype for quick experimentation and revision. So in human-centered design thinking, hearing what is being said and what are the needs of the constituents, co-creating the solutions with the different stakeholders, because we may come up with an idea, but if the stakeholders 1, 2, 3, 4 are not buying it, that solution is not going very far. There'll be too many roadblocks in the implementation and the effectiveness of the solution. Co-creating innovative solutions from the points of view of different stakeholders is very important. Google, just the last point, I'm sorry, just if you don't mind, just going back to the previous one. And then design, okay, with financial sustainability in mind, thank you, Gokul. Designing solutions with financial sustainability in mind. As social workers, we sometimes don't pay adequate attention to this particular criteria. Thank you, Gokul. We can go to the next one. So, and as you can see from the slide, different stakeholders have different take on the problem. They have a different perspective, a different mindset, a different ideology, a different theory is guiding their understanding of the problem and their perception. All these need to be nicely blended to understand the messiness of the problem. So the last slide, the next slide, Gokul. So today we will be doing, like we said, this is a very hands-on workshop. We will walk you through exercises, walk you through 3 of the 5 stages of design thinking: understanding the problem, defining the problem, and brainstorming ideas to solve a community-based problem. The ground rules will be reiterated in your Google Docs. So with that, Gokul, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Nandan. So as you heard from Dr. Nandan, we will be jumping into the problem mapping exercise shortly. That's sort of like the stage where you deeply empathize with the different stakeholders involved, wear their glasses literally and see it through their lens, and then crystallize what the problem is. So you are going to be spending some time on that. And then after getting a clear sense of what the problem is, we will get into thinking creatively by ideating. So that's sort of the plan. So going back to the first step of empathizing, what is the goal of empathizing? I mean, as you see in this picture, what you see is just the top part of the iceberg, but you really have to go to the bottom down core to gain a deep understanding, which is why you really have to spend a lot of time in understanding the problem from different stakeholder perspectives. And then you will be engaging in this exercise called 5 whys. Why do we have an onion here? It's like peeling the onion. So you're going to start with some notion, a generic notion of a problem, and then you're going to ask, why is this a problem? So you maybe get onto the second layer, and then you ask, why is this a problem? And you get onto the third layer, and then ask, why is this a problem? Get onto the fourth layer. One more time. So the more you unpeel, the layers of the onion, the better you are able to arrive at the core of the problem in question. So as Dr. Nandan mentioned, here are some rules with your problem mapping exercises. You can just let a free flow thinking about what the problem is based on the case and the stakeholder role that you have been identified. Jot down everything on your Google Docs sheet, the link for which Meredith will be giving to you pretty shortly, and think about 3 or 4 words. Don't worry about writing grammatically correct sentences. This is not the time for that. And pretty soon, Meredith will be sending you into breakout groups. And I do want to sort of highlight the fact that for each group, whether it's group 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, your group stakeholder role has been named on the tab itself. And so when you click on group 1, you should be going to group 1, group 2, etc. And if for some reason you feel you're stuck, I even have an example of a problem mapping exercise tab. You can just look at it for what was done. The problem there is not exactly the problem that you have in your case, but that's given just as an example so that you can think about color coding. You can think about how do you really arrive at a category. So Meredith, if we are ready, we can go into the rooms. Dr. Nandan, did you have anything to share?
So randomly, thank you, Gokul. So if you go to the next slide, Gokul. Here are the tasks for the breakout session. If you can take a minute and read that, please. So I'll paraphrase it for you. Randomly, you'll be assigned to 4 or 5 groups, depending. We will have, and Meredith, if you can assign Gokul and me to different groups and allow us to hop in and out of groups so we can answer questions, if you can do that, please. You'll be assigned to a group. Your role is already predetermined. So the case is described at the top of the Google Doc. You'll be assigned to a group number. That group number has a role assigned to it. For example, if you look at the tabs at the bottom, it says group 1 is residents of the nomadic rural community. Group 2 in Google Docs is county government officials in the Google Doc. Group 3 is health service staff. These are roles that have been assigned. Once you're placed in group 3, you will wear the hat of the health service staff member as you're reading the case. If you are in group 4, you'll be wearing the hat of a nonprofit organization as you are reading the case. The case is in cell D, hold on, I'll tell you, E5. In every tab, the short case is in E5. And you're answering the questions in your Excel spreadsheet in your tab. All the questions are there, which are similar to the questions here on the slide, but you're wearing the lens. Remember the slide on the green lens and the blue lens and the yellow lens? You're wearing the lens of the role for that tab. Are there any questions? Any clarifications you need about the instructions? Gokul and I will hop in and out of the breakout rooms.
Welcome back after a very intense pressure cooker problem mapping exercise. We'll get to you all sharing your experience in a couple of minutes from now, but I'm moving on to tell you about the next process. Now that we have thought of the problem in depth, we have hopefully peeled the layers of the onion to the best extent possible, it's time for us to think about a solution. And let me pull my slides here. So we are going to be engaging in the process of ideating, like the light bulb going off. So you are going to be coming up with some very creative, very, different, crazy, wacko ideas maybe, but, when it all meshes together, comes up with a very, efficient, sustainable, financially and otherwise, and very creative solution that's value addition in terms of solving the problem that you have mapped out initially. Again, as we think about the solution, it's just important to keep in mind that nobody is judging anybody's idea for a solution. So it's very open. We are encouraging really wild ideas. You might even want to build on each other's ideas so that you sort of like building an airplane. But again, remember, stay focused on the topic. The topic is focusing on the Northern Kenyan nomadic community, tribal community, and trying to look at their well-being. Let's think of as many ideas as possible. So this is not going to be a breakout group exercise, but it's going to be done together as an audience, maybe on the chat box, or you can talk it out on a mic and have fun with it. So Dr. Nandan, I turn it over to you to take on the next set of slides.
So here we will, like for ideating in the first slide, we had shown you a clip and we had asked you to describe the multiple uses of it. So you stretched your creative cells, your brain cells. Here we're going to ask you to do exactly the same thing, but slightly differently. Now, one thing I do want to mention in ideation, when you're ideating is basically brainstorming different ideas to address the whys. Unfortunately, in my group, we were having so much fun discussing. We never got to the whys as much. Peeling of the onions, we didn't get there quite fast. But when you're deciding on solutions, remember the solutions have to address the onions, The whys, why is it spreading? Why are there no resources? Whatever the problem that your group decided is the most important problem for the stakeholder to address, the whys of that, you want solutions for the whys. I hope this is making sense. Not for just the problem, but the whys of the problem. That's how you get to the root of the problem. The solutions get to the root of the problem. Otherwise, the solutions are very shallow in nature. So look at the tub. Look at this idea. We're going to ideate on this one. In chat, can you type how to remake this tub just so that it's more comfortable, how to improve it? Just randomly write your answers in chat. We'll monitor it for 30 seconds. How can you improve this tab? Make it different, make it more functional. Just type. Anyone? For example, I would love a video screen in front of the TV, in front of the tub, to watch it when I'm bathing. That's one example. How can you improve the functioning of this tub? Go for it. Provide steps, thank you. Make the edges squishy, so it's comfortable, absolutely, go for it. Keep going. Again, remember the rules. Be crazy, be creative, just put ideas, no judgment, there's no judgment. No thought, oh, is this possible? This is crazy. What am I thinking? None of that. Adjustable footrest. Footrest. Self-filling, love it. Absolutely. Put some supports on the walls to avoid slipping. You get it. You get it. Okay, beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so you see what you just did. Excellent. Excellent ideas. Floating cocktail. Oh my God. And see this? I love it. Okay, now go to the next slide. Look at, so in ideation, normally our brains don't go into the creative zone right away when we ask people to brainstorm ideas. We have all been part of the brainstorming sessions in our organizations. But if you show people pictures of unrelated objects, unrelated, and ask them to apply features from unrelated objects to something you want to ideate about, creativity kicks in. So watch the banana and the bunch together. Now, what features from this banana bunch, Gokul, if you can go back to the previous slide, what features from the banana bunch can be applied to now improving the functioning of this tub? This is lateral thinking. This is called lateral thinking. So apply something from the banana bunch to the tub. Improve the grip, okay? So yes, grip, yes. Color. Okay, go for it. What about the banana? What features do the banana have? A banana bunch. Scent. Okay, scent. Now we're good. What else? Squishy, comfy. Okay, adjusting the footrest banana by banana. Okay, banana by banana. Wow. I love it. Stack it up. Go for it. Yes, stepping on banana feelings. So when you step,
body forming.
Body forming. Okay. So yeah, so it is, yeah, so banana is, you know, takes the form, so the tub takes the form of the body. Okay, what else? What else from the banana? Banana bunch, here's another one, banana bunch. I'll give you one example that somebody's, okay, the flesh is great for the skin, okay, okay. Excellent, it is. Exfoliation happening with the banana peels. But do you see what happened with the remake? Decorating the bathtub must, yes, which has a banana flavor. So all this has banana flavor to it, I'm assuming. Decorating the bathtub like a banana. Excellent. Do you see what happened here is they're applying features from something that is unrelated to this the top to improve. That's how creativity stretches. Now, we're not going to go into what you do next here, but you just saw the exercise we did to stretch your creativity. Let's go to the last step of ideation is when you come up with all these ideas, we should ideally combine ideas. So something that is body forming and squishy and has steps and changes colors. How is all that possible in this remodeled tub? And that's how industrialists make gadgets now. Phone is not just for calling. Your entire life is on the phone. Our entire life is on the phone because ideas were combined to make their phones the way they are today. So combining ideas, people, when they're making choices in which idea to pursue, they say, okay, either it's your idea or my idea. Ideation says combine ideas, stack them up, and make it possible. That's where the creativity really happens. So with that, we're going to go to the last one. Gokul, the floor is yours.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Nandan. So now that you've all engaged in creative thinking, building a bathtub in the shape of a banana with comfy rests, et cetera, I would like for each of you to think about what you did in your groups with the problem from the case that was given to you, wearing the hat of the stakeholder that was assigned to you. And some of you started doing the 5 whys, and even if you have done just 1 why, that's still fine. So think about the why that you focused on in the problem category that you zeroed down. And then, go crazy, go wild in terms of thinking, how would you address that why in that problem category, okay? So think of at least 2 potential solutions, and it doesn't need to be picture perfect, but like what you did with the bathtub and banana exercise, think of what you could do with your problem category. And if you've gone to the peeling of the onion, with 1 why or 2 whys, make sure you come up with a solution to that why aspect. So I believe we have about roughly 3-4 minutes, and we would like some volunteers to share their thoughts. Remember, there's no judgment. This is how the process of creative thinking happens. As Dr. Nandan mentioned, the ideation part is really allowing for bridging diverse worlds, diverse kind of thinking, and coming up with a solution that is optimal. So go for it and type it on the chat, or if you want to talk it out loud, that's fine too. And we are eager to hear what are some of your thoughts.
So as we do this, Gokul, I'm just wondering, is there wisdom? Can we invite a speaker from each of the stakeholder groups to tell us what was the top category problem they were wanting to address? Let's do a quick sharing of that. Share with the full audience. So group number 1, can you share what was your top category of the problem?
I guess there was no group number 1 because it started with group 2, I think. Okay. Yep. So group 2 is the county officials group. So what was your problem category, group 2? Or if you went into any why situation, could you sort of tease it out for me? And you can go ahead.
Okay, for group 2, we had a problem internalizing the question. But at the end of it, after you explained to us what exactly we were supposed to do, we identified a few problems. One of them being poor infrastructure and lack of water. But we didn't get the opportunity to discuss on how we should solve the problem as county officials.
No worries, no worries.
Yes, but for the lack of water, I would say if I was a county government official, I would engage NGOs, the non-profit organizations, to either build boreholes for the communities.
To build what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Boreholes.
Okay.
Yeah, or
Thank you.
dams. Yes, that is
Thank
what I
you.
would say. Yeah.
Wells for the water, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
So see, that was the county government's perspective, poor roads and lack of water. So infrastructure is the focus for the county government. Excellent, thank you for
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Health, the health services staff, what was your top problem?
That was group 3.
Group 3.
Could we have a volunteer from group 3 share what your problem is and any ideas for a solution?
I think we had quite a number. Not just one. Communication was one. And we also had the issue to do with logistics in terms of supplies to the needy communities, how to communicate the medical information or the health information that the communities need, from both the national government and the county governments.
Right.
And at the same time, we had the other issue of capacity building the capacity of the community members, enlightening them to understand what is it that they need to do, and what is it that the county government need to do for them, and what is it that the national government needs to do for them. Thank you.
So which was the top did you prioritize which one you wanted to select and focus on first?
We were time bad as we were reaching there.
Okay.
So
No worries. Beautiful.
yes.
No worries
worries.
at all.
Okay.
Non-profit group, that was my group. I was part of that. Non-profit group, who wants to take the lead, Lori or Elizabeth? Can you tell us which was the top issue we focused on?
I have the sheet under my notes, so maybe it's easier. So we're a nonprofit organization working with children and families, providing community development services. And we identified that our main priority was the fast spread of disease among children.
Thank you.
That's how far we got.
That's how we didn't get to the whys, but the fast spread was a big issue. Thank you. WHO group, which is group number 5.
Yeah, that was myself and Anjani, which was a huge hat to have on. So we identified the issues around misinformation and conspiracy theories as a big problem. The need for effective public health communications in a specific context, nomadic communities, and we felt that what we needed to do was to connect with the local organisations, but not just connect, actually build relationships, but quickly, and particularly with local trusted leaders.
So that is what you just described at the end is the ideation. That was one example of ideation, to build relationships to solve a problem. So just to clarify, we as social service providers often, this is our across the globe tendency, we tend to phrase our problem as potential solutions. For example, we tend to do that. That's how our brains work. We will not call a spade. We will couch it as a solution. For example, we'll say, let's stop the spread of, the problem is to stop the spread of COVID. That's not the problem. The problem is COVID is spreading very fast. That's the problem. Stopping it is the solution. How to stop it is the ideation. But the problem is it's spreading rapidly at the rate of 1,000 cases a day. That's the problem. So we in the community development, community organizing, social work space as well, how we couch the problem is very important. It should never be in the form of solutions. It should be in the form of, where does it pain? Where is it hurting? Where is the pain point? Where is it bleeding? Why is it bleeding? What can we do to stop the bleeding? It is bleeding. Why is it bleeding? How to stop the bleeding? How to stop the bleeding is the ideation. But as social service providers, we tend to go to how to stop the bleeding right away. You see, that's very normal in our world. So as you did this exercise, about the whys. We never got to the whys, for which we apologize. But you noticed from the different stakeholders, they all had different priorities. Did you see that? They were not the same priorities. So when you're in a community development context, when you're trying to solve a community problem, understanding the problem from the points of view of different stakeholders is very important. Very important, because otherwise there'll be no agreement, there'll be chaos in the community in terms of which solution to pursue. And the people in most power, their solutions trump everything else. You know that, right? So here in human-centered design thinking, the end users, the consumers, for example, with a nonprofit group, are consumers with the families and the children on the streets. They are our end users. Their perspective on COVID and their challenges related to protecting themselves from COVID, that is the most important thing in the decision making. Potholes and resources is not top priority for the children on the streets, right? So, but for the government officials, that's top priorities, is the potholes in the water, right? So different stakeholders have different priorities, have different whys for the priorities that they have. So ideations vary. And synthesizing, understanding the different points of view of the different stakeholders before arriving at the solution. We don't have a solution yet for the problem, because you saw the problem is different. No one stakeholder, we all did not come with the same top priority. We came with different priorities to focus on. So what is the problem? Each of those priorities is the problem. Each one of them is the problem. Depends on which lens you're wearing, right? And which one the community as a whole wants to address first. Did you get that sense as you were doing this? It's not easy. It's very messy. Community problems are, Gokul, if you can go back to that messy diagram of the child playing with in communities when we're, this one is COVID is like this, literally for the stakeholders. Whose point of view are you looking at? Which pieces do you put together to address? It's not straightforward. It is very messy. And each one of them, each one of the stakeholders will see the problem differently. That's very important to understand in this process. We couldn't do the entire ideation with you, but any thoughts, any questions about the process that we really ran through very fast? Any reflections? Going to the third last slide, Gokul, if you don't mind. Thank you.
And if I may add just a quick note to what Dr. Nandan mentioned, the idea behind prototyping is exactly this. I mean, as you saw the child picking the parts, I mean, it's like, you know, what is it that we can put together, quickly test it and see whether it works or not. In business jargon, you call it a minimum viable product. So what's the bare minimum that we need as a solution that caters to the needs of all the stakeholders that we could sort of improvise as we do our back and forth and back and forth and back and forth testing, keeping in mind that this should be prima facie addressing the issue of the community people in question, and that's your focus. So just wanted to underscore that.
Thank you, Lori, for your comment. Thank you, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I also enjoyed the session, the whole discussion. Maybe just a simple thing I would also request to state is that given the dynamic environment of development or community development the practitioners are in, the skills to handle stakeholders, because the environment has drastically changed. And taking example of Kenya, everybody knows their role. Generally, most people have awakened. So we need skills to market and as well enlighten, not just sell ourselves, but also enlighten as we capture their own prioritization. I think that is also essential as stakeholders. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Beautiful point.
Absolutely.
There's actually something called stakeholder mapping process in design thinking. It maps out the different stakeholders and what are their priorities and how to engage with that mapping process. Thank you for that. Elizabeth, you've hit the nail on the head. That's one of the hardest tasks.
So very quickly, for some resources here. So this is a social work book on really looking at entrepreneurial innovative ways. And there's a chapter on design thinking in this book if you're interested, and that's the link. And here are two journal articles that might be of interest to you if you want to know more about, design thinking and creativity and innovation in the social sector. So with that, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all of you. And yes, you have a question, Lori? I'm sorry.
I'd like to see the title of the book again, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. No, I'll send the slides
really,
to.
I'll send
the slides to.
Okay, thank you.
Whoever it is, and they can send it to you. Not a problem at all. Dr. Nandan, did you want to share?
Now, any other feedback? Elizabeth, you made a very good point in terms of stakeholder mapping. I think that's maybe in our next event, we need to just focus on stakeholder mapping and how to engage with different stakeholders. Yes, that's a great point. That's one of the toughest things to do. Excellent point. Any other feedback on any other takeaways you have from this process? I know we covered a lot. Normally what takes a year, we covered in 1 hour. Literally what takes at least a year.
Can I just ask if you would show the last slide with the journal articles on it as well, please? That's great, thank you.
And when you get the PowerPoint slides from the chair, these are hyperlinks already built in, so you can just click on them and it'll take you directly to the article.
Okay, so thank you. So, yeah, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Gokul, and
thank you,
Monica.
Judraf, and the audience.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So, assuming that there is no other question, or hoping that there is no other question, allow me to express our sincere gratitude to the team. You've done us proud, you've done us really, how do I put it? You've given us something new that is not experienced. And that's why we say that every day has its own learning experiences. And I want to believe that every person who was in the team has learned a thing or two. Probably, Gokul, you can indicate maybe your email contact so that in case somebody wants to get back to you individually, absolutely, then they can be able to do that. So Monica and Gokul, probably you can just put that in the chat box, and then the delegate can be able to get it in case they want to do an individualized follow-up. Once again, thank you. And this marks the end of our workshop. We want to wish you the best of the day for those whose day has just begun. And for those who are closing the day, have a good evening, good night, enjoy yourselves. Bye.